Here we are, finally! How many specs do we have left? I don't know, but Holy Priest is one of them, and it's about time that we take a look because it has undergone some changes in certain build variants since it has been put into the Dragonflight Alpha, now currently Beta, and I don't know if you've seen any of its previous talents, and I don't know if that matters anymore. What matters is that what we have now is better. As with always, like most of the changes should be better, right? Like pretty much all classes, all specs should be better. That shouldn't be something surprising, but I mean, it is nice to see that we're constantly moving into a better direction, and we will be moving into a better direction if you like and subscribe and enable those notifications, everybody. And that will essentially help the video perform, it will help the video grow, and we can get to more people, and the channel will grow, and you will help us out because we do want to, you know, be better, be bigger, and that will help us make bigger and cooler videos. Am I going to talk like an idiot for the rest of the video? I hope not. But with that out of the way, let's check the Holy Priest out. And as always, we'll take a quick look at the general talent tree because although we have done a video on Shadow Priest talking about it, mostly we've addressed the shadowy type talents, the DPS oriented talents, and although they are kind of viable for Holy Priest as well. Sure, you can go the route of Shadow Fiends and all of that stuff. You don't have to, which is actually the pretty cool awesomeness of the talent tree, which is the closest that I have seen to something resembling the Shaman tree, which I regard as the best overall design, especially in the sense of the class tree. There are still throughput, and it's still better than before. I could imagine it can still be improved. However, Priest just seems to have so many things that increase healing or damage that I don't know how they're gonna do all of it unless they just start deleting them, and I don't know if that's a better thing to do. However, even so, you can still go and do pretty much everything that you want to do as a Holy Priest and not feel forced. You can choose more utility and healing because there are essentially fewer DPS nodes than the previous talent tree, which is good, which has kind of really chopped down all of the DPS nodes than before, but you will probably still need to go to the Power Infusion and Twin of the Sun Priestesses route, unless you're legit considered to be a troll if you're not gonna go to them because they're so strong. Power Infusion is so strong, and to be honest, I think they should probably make it somehow baseline at this point because nobody will never not pick these talents ever in the world. So why have them as talents? Because they're always going to be picked, so they're not necessarily an option. And since you're there anyway, might as well pick up Twist of Fate, which is 2 points, which is decent throughput. It's really nice. It's very accessible because you're there, and it might unlock certain capstones, which we'll see if those will be viable. There is, however, a holy oriented capstone, which is Holy Ward Life, which is a 30-second cooldown, 40-yard range, a word of holy power that heals the target for a little bit of spell power healing, but if the target is below 35% health, Holy Ward Life heals for 400% more, and its cooldown will be reduced by 20 seconds. Obviously, this depends on how it actually scales with the numbers. The core mechanic is interesting because you're essentially saving somebody. It's not something that you particularly want to base something around. You know, I would imagine a tank would be that person that you would heal below 35% health. I can imagine, let's say, like a Blood Decay, that's taking massive damage, instantly heal, but then again, you're kind of like invalidating the Blood Decay skit. If you manage to heal below 35% health, as far as I was able to tell in the very low undertuned dungeons, I did have one instance of casting this Holy Ward Life on a tank, and I think it fully HP'd that tank. Could heal for 36k, and my HP is around 30k-ish right now on my Blood Decay. That's very low gear. It depends on the gear, but it's likely close to over 50% of its HP in one button that will then have 10-second cooldown. Seems really good. We'll see exactly how practical it is because that's probably the main thing. How practical is it? But it is the holy capstone, let's say. And you have, let's say, I don't know if it's the Discipline capstone, doesn't really matter. It's Angelic Bulwark, and Angelic Bulwark is kind of like a semi-cheat death. Essentially what it does is, when you receive an attack that takes you below 30% health, you gain an absorption shield equal to 15% of your maximum health for 20 seconds. 20 seconds is a long time, and this can only occur every 90 seconds, so actually the cooldown is pretty low considering that it's unlikely that you'll take that much damage again unless you're fucking some shit up. So it's kind of like a good rotation in your defensive cooldowns, because you obviously have all your original abilities, Fade, Desperate Prayer, things like that, and Fate can also be buffed in the talent tree with more interactions. I'm not going to go into them right now, but this is good, and it's very accessible since you're probably going to go to Holy Ward Life, and you can actually path to this one particularly easy, even if you don't path from the middle, which you could still do because you are taking Twist of Fate, and downwards from Twist of Fate there are a couple of, you have Halo and you have Divine Star, which are always good and something that you've been playing with. I think Halo was mostly Discipline. I don't know if Holy has it right now too. I haven't played Holy in a very, very long time. I think since beta Shadowlands. However, you can actually get either of those two, and you can essentially path down to Angelic Bulwark. And just a little tidbit that I wanted to mention, since I did talk about this in the Shadow Priest. When you play Shadow, these spells are purple, and I didn't know if they overall changed to purple because I didn't check Holy at the time, but I did check Holy now, and they're not purple, they're yellowish, goldish, lighty thing, and that's actually a really cool class fantasy that they've added. They didn't need to, but they did, and that's really cool. The duality between light and shadow, that was, whoever thought of that, nice job. Really cool. The other two capstones, essentially Void Shift, has been a PvP talent for quite a while. I'm having a hard time seeing how this can be effective in PvE. Maybe for Discipline Priest, but for Holy Priest, it's unlikely, since whatever this would do can be done way better by Guardian Spirit. So what Voice Shift does is, as you and the currently targeted party or raid member swap health percentages, increase the lower health percentage of the 2 to 25% if below that amount. So what this, you can essentially save somebody. I would imagine you're close to full HP, you're a healer, and you would save either the tank or a DPS, and you would swap health percentage. Obviously, it would have the most amount of value for a tank, and if that tank falls really low, although again, this is kind of like Holy Ward Life, do you really want to cast it at max efficiency when the target is below 25% health? Even so, when you're casting it super low, you basically swap traits, swap places in terms of HP percentages. That can be really good, especially since you might be in a safer position. Since you're going to be doing this, you will have some forethought, I would imagine, that, okay, I'm safe, I'm full HP, I'm gonna swap HPs, I'm gonna have to heal myself, it's gonna be good, right? You have these planned, and if that can happen, Voice Shift can be really good. However, once again, if you just need to save that target regardless of what circumstances you are in, Guardian Spirit was probably going to be way better. But then again, if it's on cooldown, who knows? Maybe you have two now. Void Shift is on a 5-minute cooldown, so we'll see. The other capstone is the Mind Games, which is not really the capstone, but Shadow Perception is. However, you can consider Mind Games the capstone, because if you are taking Mind Games, you might take the buffers that are going down from it, which will give it more damage and more efficiency. And you don't really have to take this. I mean, you could play the Venthyr Holy Priest that, you could play now. That it's pretty fun. You could add that extra particular single target damage if you don't need all of the healing buffers on the left-hand side, or, the utility-ish side on the middle. You can go to this. So this is actually the cool part of the talent tree, since besides these Mind Games and 1 or 2 other points in the top part of the talent tree, you don't really have any other damage. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to deal damage, you don't have to spec into the damage. You can do more healing. If you do want to do damage, you can, and you don't have to waste too many points and still get your healing points. So yes, the way that the talent priest, the class priest talent tree is designed right now is way better. Props to the devs. Now let's actually talk about the actual Holy Spec tree, which I'm not gonna go into all of them because there's quite a few, and there's a lot that you already know. A lot of talents that we have now, a lot of passives, a lot of conduits. I'll go over some of the more important ones. If you do want to see each one, you can definitely check Wowhead, and they have a Dragonflight talent calculator, and you can look at each one. Not to mention that most of these, like not most, but some of them can still be changed. So likely we'll go into the main ones that are less likely to be changed. So first of all, the top side of the talent tree is actually really nice. It's really accessible. It gives you the core abilities of your spec. You get, I obviously start with Holy War Sanctify, Serenity, but you do get Prayer of Healing, Guardian Spirit, and Holy Ward Chastise, which is actually kind of cool because all three kind of branch out to their respective sides of the talent tree, and they kind of indicate what you will be getting from that side of the tree. Chastise will give you DPS options on the right-hand side. Prayer of Healing will give you AoE healing and a bunch of other really strong healing on the left-hand side. and Guardian Spirit is basically the cooldowns, the main cooldowns that will go straight down the middle, which is really fucking cool. And speaking of the middle side, although most of them are stuff that you already know, I do want to touch on something that's really interesting. So below Guardian Spirit, you have a choice node between Guardian Angel and Guardians of the Light, choosing whatever you want the Guardian Spirit to do, which Guardian Angel has kind of been something that you've been using for probably always, because it's really good. Guardians of the Light is debatable. I can see this being really good in PvP. I can see this really being good in specific encounters, depending on how they're designed. Haven't seen this particularly relevant in dungeons so far, but I could imagine there's a raid encounter where a lot of people are taking damage and you'll be taking damage as well. And if you know that you will 100% be taking damage, you can definitely use Guardians of the Light and instead focus all of your healings on everybody else, and you just trickle whatever trickles down to you. So it's really cool. And on top of that, there is another choice node just underneath it for, let's say, your Spirit of Redemption, right? So right now you have Afterlife and Archbishop Benedictus Restitution, which is a mouthful. That's what she said. She didn't, because she had a mouthful. What? All right. Afterlife essentially makes the Spirit of Redemption have an increased duration of 50% and the range of its spells increased by 50%, probably really useful in raid. And as a Spirit of Redemption, you may sacrifice your spirit to resurrect an ally, putting yourself to rest, essentially dying. Or you could go with Archbishop Benedictus's Restitution, which after Spirit of Redemption expires, you'll revive with up to 100% health based on your effectiveness during the actual spirit phase. After reviving, you cannot benefit from Spirit of Redemption for 10 seconds. So this sounds like it's reincarnation from shamans with a 10-minute cooldown instead of a 30-minute cooldown. That's pretty dope. Now, this is a controversial topic. I'm not a main mythic healer. I'm talking about mythic raiding, because in dungeons, this is debatable. But in raids, I could see this being very niche, where you might even soak a mechanic that would normally kill you, considering that you can resurrect with only a 10-minute cooldown. I don't know how this will transfer. These types of mechanics are very delicate in the way that they're placed into the game. If this is how it's working, you can essentially, let's say, soak a mechanic that might kill you. And if that's how the encounters will be designed, I can see this particular talent being nerfed to, I don't know, 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes to be in line with the reincarnation, to make sure that you're not abusing this. Although you can only use it once per fight, so maybe it's not that bad. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. And obviously, depending on the cooldown, it might affect stuff like, you know, race world first or your progress now with your guild, stuff like that. But it is cool. I kind of like the concept. And with that out of the way, I do want to touch a little bit on the left-hand side of the talent tree, which is a lot of AoE healing, but not necessarily, but mostly stuff like, you know, Prayer of Healing and Circle of Healing focused stuff. You have Sanctified Prayers, which is all the way to the left-hand side, just below actual Holy War Sanctified. And Sanctified Prayers essentially makes Holy War Sanctified increase the healing done by Prayer of Healing, which, you know, there's a lot of actual synergies like this. And it's on a choice node with Revitalizing Prayers. Prayer of Healing has a 30% chance to apply 6 seconds of Renewed. That applies to also allies, and we'll talk about that in a second. You also have Prayerful Litany, which I think it's something that we might have seen before. I don't know if it was an Azerite trait in BFA or if it's something right now. I'm not that versed with all of the conduits and all the little passives and legendaries that Holy Priest has, but it's simple. Prayer of Healing heals for 30% more to the most injured ally it affects, and that's really good. I mean, I found, however little I've played Holy Priest in dungeons, whenever I need AoE healing, somebody's obviously taking a little bit more damage than the rest, and I kind of have to always just like, man, Prayer of Healing is not going to heal that dude enough to survive, so having this 30% extra more on the most injured person is actually kind of good. This is kind of contributing to the smart healing type systems, where healing is very effective depending on who is more injured and stuff like that, something that's predominant in a lot of other healers as well. And there's also, of course, right underneath Circle of Healing, the choice node Prayer Circle and Healing Chorus. Prayer Circle essentially makes Circle of Healing reduce the cast time and the cost of your Prayer of Healing by 25% for 8 seconds, which I think is something that we already have. Healing Chorus makes your Renew Healing increase the healing done by your Circle of Healing by 2%, stacking up to 25 times, which is actually an interesting new take on, let's say, Holy Priest trying to really focus on Renew. There are a lot of towns that really focus on Renew, which I'm saying it's interesting because right now and for a long time, Renew has kind of been a dead-ish spell. I don't know if right now in season 4 people are using a lot of renews. I haven't personally seen it. Like the keys that I was able to do with Holy Priests and the raid that I was doing with our Holy Priest, don't really see renew topping the healing meters while we're also, you know, progressing through the content. So I'm not sure the value of renew now. And I know prior to this tier, renew was pretty garbage. But there's a lot more focus now. So first of all, we have revitalizing prayers that I mentioned before. That makes prayer of healing have 30% chance to apply 6 seconds of renew to allies that it heals. It's still RNG, but it does help. And I mean, obviously I've tested this in dungeon, but I can see it being more valuable in raids. Since renew is kind of more of a raid healing, dungeons really need immediate healing. Although raids have definitely, you know, boss fights have encounters where you need immediate healing. For the most amount of time, you just take trickles of healing and stuff like that make renew good. But you know, it was never that good enough to single-handedly just use a global for renew. We do have also just underneath it, like I mentioned, healing chorus, making renew increase the healing of circle of healing, and you'll see a lot of synergies like this through the tier. Use one healing, boost the other, use that one, boost the other, and so on, which is actually kind of cool. It's a cool kind of system that kind of loops around its own little efficiency circle. And there's also, like, if you keep going down, there's empowered renew and rapid recovery, which is probably the strongest node, at least it seems to me. Empowered renew basically makes renew instantly heal a target for 10% of its total periodic effect, which is good. I think it's similar. It reminds me similarly of regrowth from Resto Druids, where regrowth has a healing over time effect, but it does do initial healing as well. Rapid recovery increases the healing done by renew by 35%, but decreases its base duration by 3. Now, obviously more healing quicker is better, and obviously this is a little bit situational, and I don't know if rapid recovery, let's say, will make renew good. However, if you do take talents that have a chance to leave renew behind, which we already talked about, revitalizing prayers, and I think there's one more with prayer of mending, and there's of course a few others, like benediction and holy mending, which is a choice node a little bit higher up in the tree. Benediction makes I think it's still the same. Your prayer of mending has a 15% chance to leave a renew on each target it heals, and holy mending, well, when prayer of mending jumps to a target affected by your renew, the target is instantly healed. Again, more renew synergy, so this fully incentivizes you playing the renew. So with rapid recovery, I can see benediction and, let's say, revitalizing prayers be really good, because it does add those renew procs. Now, I'm not sure if revitalizing prayers, for instance, gives you a 6-second renew on the allies, or is it 3 seconds because it's reduced from rapid recovery, or it remains a 6-second renew, but it has that 35% extra healing. So obviously, and things are still bugged here, not all of the talents work, so it's really hard to tell where the synergy is supposed to be, because certain things, although they seem obvious from the tooltips, it's not usually how the devs are intending the talents to be working. However, if they do work that way, you can have some really cool, interesting synergies with the renew, where you might not have to cast renew, but it's still good, and it definitely fuels into other healing spells. And if you look throughout the other, for the rest of the tree, besides the cooldowns and the passives and the spells that you have right now, there's a whole lot of capstones with old conduits or old legendaries that are coming in, versus Lightweaver, which is the bottom left capstone at a choice node with Lightwell. Lightweaver is kind of flash concentration. It's a 2-pointer, and it makes casting flash heal reduce the cast time of your heal and increases its healing, but it doesn't make it instant. So what it does is reduce the cast time of heal by about 60%. Right now, it doesn't work on beta. I mean, I get the buff, but the cast time isn't reduced, so I cannot really feel how it would function in a high octane combat. I would imagine it's good, because obviously it's working now, but you only need 2 casts of flash heal instead of, I think it's 5 right now on Shadowlands with the legendary. So maybe that's good. You still have Holy War Salvation versus Apotheosis, which is on the middle side, which is, you know, what we've been playing with so far. And we can actually talk right now about the right-hand side really quickly, where it focuses a lot more on DPS, although you do have healing options here, so don't worry about that. I mean, we mentioned Benediction before. Obviously, it starts with Holy Fire, and first of all, we have Burning Vehemence, which is okay. It reduces the cast time of Holy Fire and its cooldown as well, and that's particularly good. And we keep going down to Imperial Blaze, which is a new spell, new in the sense that it's not now in the game. I don't know if it's an older version, I wouldn't be surprised. 30-second cooldown, refreshes your Holy Fire, the cooldown of it, and your next 3 Holy Fires are instant and cast no mana. and also incur no cooldown. So basically, you can cast a Holy Fire, and then you pop Imperial Blaze, and you cast 3 more Holy Fires, and you can spread it out. And or you can actually cast it on one target. So this is good in single target because then the duration stacks. So whether or not you're using this to add the duration to Holy Fire, or you're somehow able to cast a Holy Fire before the previous one ends, I think that's slightly unlikely. I don't know how the haste will affect its cooldown and its cast time to see how its duration will be, but the duration, the dot will essentially stack, which is cool because, you know, I mean, it has single target applications, which is nice. You also have Searing Light, which is an interesting, weirdly placed silent. You cannot path down to it from Imperial Blaze. You still have to, it's kind of like a reset, but, you know, Searing Light makes might deal 15% and 30% if you put the 2 points in damage to targets affected by Holy Fire. Also, Holy Nova deals 30% more damage to targets affected by Holy Fire. I don't know about the Holy Nova bits. Holy Nova is still a spell that I haven't seen the use for in years. I hope they do something with that. It doesn't seem like it so far, but again, single target smites can be really good. So you can definitely, you know, fuel that DPS rotation if you so desire, which is actually really cool. And the capstone, although not necessarily related to Holy Fire, still DPS related, Divine Word, which I believe it's an old mechanic. I haven't actually played with it. So what Divine Word does, it's a 1-minute cooldown that buffs your next Holy Word to be, I think, 50% better, the damage and healing, and grants a Divine Favor for 15 seconds, which is a buff. And for Chastise, it increases its damage, of course, and makes Smite have a chance to apply Holy Fire to the target, which is interesting, obviously. And if you take Imperial Blaze, I would imagine that the dot would stack if you get multiple procs from that Smite. Sanctify puts an area down where it heals allies, actually looks really cool, has really nice animation. And Serenity makes a flash heal, heal and renew, heal for more, critically strike more often, and cost less to cast. This sounds kind of like tank healing. This is kind of reminds me a little bit of Mistweaver because it's for 15 seconds, and realistically, after you cast Serenity on a target, do you really need that target for 15 seconds to take increased healing? This is very specific and very niche, but it's good to have, and the versatility of being able to get 3 potential effects depending on which one you choose is nice. And it's also a choice node with Miracle Worker, which if you want things simpler, take Miracle Worker, then Holy War Serenity will have a second charge, giving you more, let's say, tank healing and versatility. And this kind of concludes the first look at Holy Priest. Judging healers is a little bit trickier because you kind of do need to know how encounters are set up, since healers are very, very influenced by the encounters, because otherwise you're not, it's not like a DPS, you're not looking to put out as much HPS as possible. You want to put as little HPS needed and transfer to DPS if possible, and keeping everybody alive, right? So it's a little bit, let's say, subtle. We'll kind of have to test it in proper content, and until then, it's still nice. There's still a talent that's not yet in, which is Converted Followers, which, I mean, sounds kind of goofy and cool. It has the old Divine Spirit icon, so I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's Converted Followers. We have Mind Control effects. I don't know if it has anything to do with that. I would be surprised if it does, because it's a path down from Benediction, so we'll see exactly what that is. I am all for making Renew a core part of your playstyle if that can be made into something like that, because that's really cool. It's an iconic spell. It's an old spell and has been kind of benched for a long time, even though you could have used it. But I mean, yeah, it is what it is. It's still a lot of buttons, which is cool because you actually have a choice to take those buttons and you're not necessarily forced into them. You can opt to have simpler, more passive-oriented playstyle. Not a lot of DPS buttons. You can opt to not choose those, or you can definitely go if you like to have like a gazillion keybinds and you want to, oh, this time I have my 3 keybinds that I haven't played for a while and I'm gonna do DPS for like 20 seconds, and that's really cool. The versatility of the Holy Priest is still taken into Dragonflight up the notch, and I actually kind of like it. I like this version of Holy Priest more than the Shadowlands, and Holy Priest has been for the longest time one of my least favorite healers, and looking at this talent tree, it's so much better. It's actually might actually get me to want to play Holy Priest. We'll see exactly how that turns out as we go into the beta, so hope you enjoyed the video today. Once again, if you want to support the video, hit that like, smash that subscribe, and beat the living shit out of that notification bell so you can get notified when we post videos, because we do post daily, and of course helps the channel and the video out respectively. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you, patrons, for supporting the content. You guys rock. We'll see you next time. Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.